In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 121.
First time that we've done one of these since July.
July 5th or 6th, right? It's been,
Yep, 4th of July weekend, something like that.
yeah.
Not for lack of trying, we did outline and plan for one, although that admittedly was in August. So we still had like a month. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
I
we
mean,
always come back.
yeah, but there's also like a bunch of things that were happening, right? Like, I have a new background, so my internet didn't work for most of the time we were trying to plan in that month.
Yeah, but just like cicadas, we eventually come back.
Yeah, so let's kick it right off with the MLB playoffs.
Yeah, so last we checked in with MLB on this show, there were a lot more teams in the mix. That has since gone away.
Yep.
My my Pirates faltered from like 4 games above 500 to back to like 10 games under.
Yep.
So what's happened in a month and a half?
I mean,
We
like,
have the White Sox who are like generationally bad to the like we were saying generationally bad in the sports world for a long time this season.
yeah.
But only now are we looking at it with the eyes of like, oh my God, not only is it generationally bad, but like record setting bad, like
Yeah.
worst since like the 1940s.
Man, like I don't know, like they're gonna go an entire season with less than a 25% win rate.
What's crazy though is the one White Sox game I went to this year, we left in the fifth inning. It was a walk-off home run for Andrew Benintendi. It was like a walk-off grand slam. It was like, so did see just by luck one of 40 wins or something like that.
Not even yet. It's like 1 of 30.
They had like 3 wins at the time when we went. They and I think they had won the night before, so everybody was I okay. Last year I went to a lot of Pirates games just to get the freebies and then ended up leaving.
Yep.
So I hopped on White Sox Reddit and they were doing a hockey jersey giveaway at this game and I was like, "Hey, me and my buddies are in town. We're really only showing up to get the jersey. We're going to hang for a few innings. When should we go?" The number of comments I got about it, don't give this team any money. They're so cheap is like, you do understand I'm a Pirates fan, right? Like, and then when I went to Seattle this year and I was like, I want to get teal Mariners hat, and they're like, the Mariners are actively on Reddit. They're not trying to win. Don't do this to yourself. And I just respond all the time like, you understand, I'm a Pirates fan. Like, it genuinely could be a lot worse.
Yeah. I mean, like that the White Sox team is a different brand of bad though. Like even
A
compared to
different
the
brand of bad,
Pirates.
and it's worse because like there's nothing appealing about like the White Sox as a brand.
Yeah.
Like their colors are black and white. Their logo is like a hard graffiti.
Yep.
It's just very hard to be like this rocks.
I mean,
Um,
I did think like the stadium was pretty nice, like in terms
the
of
stadium's all right. Like everything's fenced in and it's wall to wall advertisement. And I like most stadiums are advertisement, but like the whole like it it reveres like Yankee Stadium in that like instead of anything that's a semblance of a skyline, it's just like, oh, go to giant grocery store ad, be like, we sell beer, stuff like that. And it's like that from left field all the way to right field.
Okay.
It's like you do feel like you're kind of like vertically in a cell.
Okay. Yeah, I know. A lot like when I was there, it's been like 15 years. So don't remember too much. But
Can
it
you
was fine
believe
when
that that team has actually won a World Series more recently than like 95% of sports teams?
yeah.
That was like 2005, something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. But anyway, like okay, let's talk teams that are in the hunt, right? Like you have the Twins pulling up the rear of the AL, right?
Mhm.
At the moment.
Yeah, the
Um
AL, we're looking at the Twins in the sixth spot.
yeah.
They'd be playing the Astros as of right now in the three spot. Um, we have the Orioles in the four, the Royals in the five, and then the Yankees and Guardians at the one and two.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then in the NL we have the Mets pulling up the rear by a little bit.
mhm,
And the Phillies, Dodgers, and Brewers are the current leaders for their divisions.
yeah, so we have Phillies one, Dodgers two, three Brewers, four Padres, five Diamondbacks. And it
And
sounds like
the Braves are only half a game back as of now.
I was gonna say, it sounded like the Braves were in that wild card spot firm for a while, and the Diamondbacks kind of got hot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like again, I know I've said this before in previous episodes, like the fact that the Padres actually got rid of guys and became the version that we all thought that they were going to be when they first handed out 150 to Bogarts and 300 to Tatis and Machado. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they spent big league money, even though they're not a big league city. And I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think
like,
it got past the point of like actively rooting for them,
but I
though.
mean, like, at least we still have some race with like what 10, 15 games left in the season, with the Braves only being half game out of a spot. Like, because
Yeah.
if you look at the AL, your next team is the Tigers, and they're 3 games out. Like, don't look so hot.
Well, that's the AL, but
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think the AL is kind of like more set in stone, as in those are probably going to be the 6 teams. Like, I really don't see the Tigers or the Mariners
well,
or
hold
the
on.
Red Sox for that matter taking the last spot.
Okay, I was just curious because they're in the same division if the Twins played the Tigers the rest of the way, but it looks like they do not.
Yeah.
So that helps because like if they played each other and the Tigers swept, then like they would by far be the worst record team in the playoffs.
Yep.
Like we did go from in the span of a month and a half, and we kind of knew this to some extent. The NL went from more volatile and everybody was kind of like hovering around 500 to now teams are like 13, 14 games over.
Yeah.
And now the AL is the one where it's like, yeah, the Twins are in sixth place with 9 games over 500, but the next team is only like 3 games over 500.
Right.
So like we kind of shifted landscapes in terms of like which has the most to gain and the less to lose.
Yep. Yeah, but like, I mean, at least in the AL, right? Yankees, Cleveland, and Houston are pretty set in stone.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I think at some point we have to ask at what point is it Houston's last run? Because like Altuve is mid 30s, Bregman went from perennial all-star to we don't really talk about him much anymore, and their wave of big prospects has kind of come and
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Yep.
So, I mean, Jose Abreu didn't work at first base. He's no longer in the picture.
Nope.
They're winning, but it's pretty much squarely on good pitching at this point. And
Yeah.
you'd have to think that whatever offense they're contributing to the equation is not going to hold for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, let's
Fair.
look into team batting average.
I
MLB
mean, like
batting.
they score at least, right? They're like I don't know.
Actually, they're 262, which is the second in baseball as
Yeah.
a team. Padres are 265. I don't know. Like it just feels like their roster older, right? Let's see. Let's check game day. Altuve is batting 302. Jordan Alvarez is 310. They did go get Yandy Diaz at 302. All right, I stand corrected. They're doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
They, uh, here now I say on air, I am very wrong. They have one hitter in their lineup that's batting under 250.
Okay. Yeah. I
So
mean,
stand corrected.
yeah. I mean, according to like run differential, they're scoring a good amount more, so it would make sense.
Well, then maybe they reloaded at just the right time.
Maybe.
I have no patience for them to keep winning though. Um, I've always looked at a team like the Twins and rooted for them, but
Mm-hmm.
they just have such bad luck in the playoffs. It's like everything that they do in 162 games, it just falls right apart as soon as October hits. I
Okay.
don't know what it is, but they just a few years ago it was like, oh, the pitcher who used to like drive Uber, stuff like that is like nothing that they do between April and September ever means anything. I think that their best playoff moment was that game 163 that was like in 2008. Like
Okay.
they fought all the way back and then
Yeah.
like climbed into it.
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty fair. I mean, I think most of the teams that are shooing for the playoffs are pretty good. It'll be good to see some of the matchups.
Well, you're
Again,
obviously rooting for the Yankees, but who else is there that actively is there to root for?
I mean, I don't know. I root for the Yankees, so I'm not going to root for the other New York
I
team
mean,
at least.
I do think that the Royals right now, if they enter the picture,
Huh.
um, have the best chance of. But it's hard because they also won in 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
Like
No, but like, okay, like,
if those small market teams that fall all the way apart and then have to rebuild all the way back up, you always have to have a little bit of a soft spot for them.
yeah, but like, I don't know, like, as a Yankees fan, I'm probably not going to root for another team in the AL. So like, if I'm looking at another team, I'm looking at like probably like Padres or something.
My mindset has always been in sports like it's not going to be the team that beats my team, but if there's somebody who takes a different path, regardless of conference, like in the NFL, which we'll jump into in a second, is like the Detroit Lions will never be, as you said, in the way of the Steelers getting to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But just knowing what they've gone through, and now how gritty they play, you always at least in my world, have such a high respect for them that you can't root for them losing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, like, a lot of the players on the team are castaways. Um, but in baseball, like, I do sympathize with small market teams.
Yeah.
And even like I know it's out of context, but like if you understand even big market teams that just historically have such horrible stories about like choking in the late regular season or like getting there or having bad injury luck. Like I sympathize with Mets fans because how many times did they think, okay, we have DeGrom and Syndergaard, and then think like they were like
Yeah.
maybe one piece away from a World Series, and then like within a month it was just DeGrom's and Syndergaard are both on the shelf. So like I sympathize with those fan bases and teams because like they never seem to have it all go right. And like when
True.
they get within earshot of having a chance, you're kind of like a kid who like can't swim. You're kind of like,
I mean,
all right, you know, like I want to see you get there,
as much as like I'm probably never rooting for the Mets.
and that's fine. We have a different point of view on things though. Like you've seen a handful of Yankees rings, and you've seen one of those rings against the Mets. The Mets are obviously a rival to the Yankees. But for me, like, if the Phillies went 8 years with sub 500 and they didn't have a bunch of $300 million contracts on their team, and they built up through prospects and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they basically had a full rebuild, I won't go out and buy Phillies merch, but
Hmm. Fair.
it would be
That's
easier
fair.
to root for them.
That's
Like
fair.
Tampa Bay, the Rays, the problem with the Rays, like in 2020, we were all very happy just to have a World Series. But the Dodgers are like the typical team of like they obviously are going to go for it every year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's how they are.
why do I feel like they should deserve it more than the Rays? I feel like the Rays, who have like a $30 million payroll, should deserve it more because it takes advanced analytics, it takes scouting, it takes basically being perfect in your formula to get there. The problem with the Rays is after 2020, there was a sense of arrogance in those players. The Wander Francos,
Yeah.
and that they're even when Franco was gone, the rest of the guys, even this year, when I was seeing them in Pittsburgh, like they just have a swagger to them, despite the fact that they're like 5 games under 500. So you start to lose your sympathy
Yeah.
because the feel good story has come and gone. These guys feel like they deserve it. A feel good story
True.
always trumps entitlement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, regardless though, like, oh, well, I'm kind of excited, like, to pick up watching a lot of baseball again during the playoffs because the regular season, like, outside the opening few games, it's kind of tough to sit through a game unless I'm there. So it'll be good to see some baseball again.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone to a game since July. And it's not because of the record, it's just
Yeah.
everything changed. But like
To be fair,
anybody
I
else
haven't
planning
gone to a
games
game
in the
since
next few
July
weeks?
either.
Yeah, the ones I dragged you to.
Yeah. So anyway, let's start talking some.
Although I did drag you to the game where the Pirates ran out of fireworks because they hit 7 home runs.
Yeah, that was too funny.
It was
Yeah, everybody like kind of felt it too, because even the people around us were like, "Did they run out?"
everybody lost their voice that night.
Yeah,
Well, it felt weird.
Yep.
That was like the last. It's hard to believe that that was this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's move from the MLB to the NFL now. So why don't we talk some wide receiver contracts?
Yeah, so it just dawned on me right before we started recording that this all kind of stems from one move this season, at
Yep.
least the Justin Jefferson contract,
Uh-huh.
where he got 140 earlier.
Yep.
And we're now starting, like, wide receivers have always been considered divas, as it were. The thing now is we're reaching NBA level where, like, the NFL never worked this way historically because obviously there's so many players on the team that one player, trade or don't trade, it doesn't make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like having playmakers makes a difference, but you'll always have another receiver on the roster.
Yep.
Um, and so like guys who are on their rookie deals, it's like, all right, we'll trade you, we'll get a high pick for you, and we'll keep it moving. Like
Mm-hmm.
no sweat off our bones, you know. But now we're looking at CD Lamb, who got one. Did they both get 120?
I think both of them got 120.
Okay, so CD Lamb of the Cowboys got 120 and Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers got 120. Um, Different guaranteed money. I think Ayuk got more guaranteed. Um, but we also saw CD Lamb, he kind of he didn't really hold out, but he didn't do any preseason snaps, anything like that, which was now in a 3 game preseason doesn't really mean a ton. Um,
Actually, CD Lamb got 4 136. Ayuk got 4 120.
okay, okay, but I think got more guaranteed, right? Like 65.
Yeah, I didn't check guaranteed. I just checked total.
Okay, okay. Um, so anyway, um, Lamb didn't kind of like didn't stay away from the team. Ayuk did. Ayuk basically was teetering on the fence of being traded here to the
Mm-hmm.
Steelers, which I was very much against. Um, because if a wide receiver wants 30 million and you already have a wide receiver one, you should not be trading for a guy who wants 30 million.
Mm-hmm.
You can
I
get
agree.
a second, you could get a wide receiver two for a lot cheaper than 30. Um, Lamb, I respect, kind of did it quietly. I made an absolute media spectacle of it. He stopped showing up to and part of it is Steelers fans' fault for overreacting way too hard. But
Yep.
Ayuk, I believe, was basically like wouldn't show up in team issue, anything wouldn't wear the team name. Then they'd have negotiations one day and he'd show up in the shirt that, that says 49ers. Then the next day he would go back to. So he was basically kind of playing mind games throughout this whole thing. Only for, I guess, what happened is the 49ers gave him an ultimatum of like, take a deal that we're giving you or just decide to be gone. And then he decided to stay. So it was like he was never gonna go anywhere anyway.
Yep.
Which is fine. Like I said, it's, as a Steelers fan, I would prefer not to trade for a $30 million wide receiver, especially with TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick making 30 million themselves. You just got Justin Fields, and if you actually think he's the future, you got to pay him this offseason. So it all leads to like somebody's going to start a domino effect of getting cut that's going to impact a balance in talent anyway.
Yep.
So, like you bring in more offense and you lose the defense. So it's kind of like go get a guy for 10 to 12 mil and just chill there. Um, do we think Ayuk is worth 120 mil? I'm of the opinion that he's not. I think he's very, very good, but he's in the perfect scenario. He's in a scenario where regularly you have a top five offensive line. You have a quarterback who, at the very least, is a top level game manager. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Debo Samuel and George Kittle. You don't have to be a stud
Mm,
in that offense to be a contributor.
okay.
Good
Yeah.
for him for getting his money and his guaranteed money, but CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson, I think, are more deserving of the contract because if you take those guys out of the lineup, you're looking at a shell of the team. And I think if you take Brandon Ayuk out of the lineup, as we kind of saw Monday night, especially for people who play fantasy football and have him, after he signed the deal because he basically held out the whole preseason. They didn't snap. They held him on a very limited snap count anyway, and he had like two, three catches for 30 yards. So basically a non-factor in the game. They still won by two touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, and that's against a Jets team that's believed to be at least competent this year. So,
We'll see.
well, yes, but the reasoning now is that I mean, to the neutral fan, I don't know how many people would say that Ayuk is bad. I think most people say Brandon Ayuk is very good.
Yeah.
I do think at the same time, I think that Brandon Ayuk is a guy who gets maybe like an $80 million contract, but I didn't see 120. And I don't understand 30 million a
I
year.
mean,
A
my thing
guy who,
is with contracts for major sports, it's like there's so much money going into it anyway, right? And like we've already seen like quarterback contracts go up by like factors. You're
so
about to start seeing like all the rest of the players like big name contracts going up by factors.
So would we say that Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk is the better wide receiver?
Uh I don't know. I
I'd
mean,
say I understand they're different kinds of
yeah.
receivers. Samuel is more of a Swiss Army knife who they get involved in different ways. But he's also proven to be a very capable and consistent receiver. They gave him a 3-year, $71 million deal. So that's if we're not talking guaranteed money, around 23 mil. So they gave 30 million over 4 years to the other guy who you could argue isn't the better receiver.
I mean, I would say that Ayuk, like he only fills like one kind of role.
Right.
So
Most
while
receivers
he's like, I wouldn't say one of them is better than the other, but I'd say that his like it's easier to replace a singular role than one person who does multiple things.
correct. And I agree with that. Um so if one is worth 71 million, can't I can't understand and accept if I'm a 49ers fan 120. And I know I do have a couple 49ers friends in my social circle and when I was like the Ayuk rumors to the Steelers, and I was like, telling him like, look, man, as a Steelers fan, I understand he's very good. I don't really want him. It doesn't make sense in the Arthur Smith system. Which, if you're familiar with Tennessee, how they ran their offense with Arthur Smith is like they had AJ Brown, and then you couldn't name the next guy, and they still made the playoffs like every year.
Yep.
Um, so that's just how it was. And I was like, 30 million for the other guy if he's not going to be used doesn't make sense. Um, and the 49ers friends, they were like, look, man, we're tired of the drama. Somebody take him. Like, that's all we care about right now. And I was like, all right, like, I'll take him, but I don't want to pay him.
Yeah. Anyway, on to the newest tech, I guess, in the NFL with the
Guardian
caps
caps.
that some players are wearing.
Yeah, so I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's worn it in the regular season. I know he wore it in the preseason. Um, I don't know. This is actually kind of timely now because like we first outlined this in the preseason, but with the Tua concussion the other day,
Yeah.
it's now a lot more relevant again. Um, I know James Daniels of the Steelers, who's an offensive lineman, is wearing it. There seems to be very little backlash from former players about guys wearing it. And there's no
So
ill will or hatred towards those who aren't wearing it.
it says that last week Jonathan Taylor said that he won't wear it during the regular season games because he didn't get enough reps with it to see how it affects his play.
But you get the reps in the game.
Hey man, I'm just reading
They
off the
all wear
headline.
I that's fine. They all wear the Guardian caps in practice. That's like the labor union law right now.
Hey man.
Oh, all right. I guess I look forward to him wearing it 4 years from now when he finally gets 12 games worth of preseason reps. That seems like a really stupid way of saying I'm not going to wear it. But you know, the one guy, I guess the Steelers player who is wearing it, um, not so much about trend setting here. It's about safety.
Yeah.
Offensive linemen and guys in the trenches normally not much for getting concussions. Most of their injuries are from the waist down.
But I
But
mean, they also are the ones that are constantly like they get a lot more, I guess, like
engaged
smaller, repetitive
jostles.
concussions that are a lot
They get
less
jostled a lot.
symptomatic.
Um, I don't know. For me, like I think that there's a lot of nothing in terms of players hating it. I think in 10 years we'll see a lot more use of this. And again, it's not about trend setting, but the fact that there are one or two players willing to go out of their way to do it now
Mm-hmm.
will set the table for others later.
Yeah.
Um, I think that we're looking at an NFL player population that
I mean,
is
I assume at some
ingrained,
point it's
right,
gonna
but
be
they're
like a
ingrained in this is how they grew up, this is how they played from youth all the way through
yeah. But my thing is
without it.
right. Like you see how hockey does it, right? They kind of like just make a rule and grandfather it, right?
Right.
Like at some point that's gonna happen with the Guardian caps.
Unless the players union fights it.
Yeah, but like
Hockey, they don't fight it because there's not enough profit on either side in the NHL to warrant anybody holding out over it.
but like okay, at some point like, so many studies keep coming out about like how NFL players like they just are like suffering in their retirement basically. At
Yeah, and I do
some
think that there's
point
a level of
somebody's going to
stubbornness
get
to
it.
it.
Huh?
Yeah, I do think that there's a level of stubbornness to it too.
Yeah, but like at
I think
some point,
that's
I'm not
yeah.
saying 2 years from now, 5 years from now, even. I'm saying, you know, somewhere in
I
the
think
future.
that if the players union fought this hard for safety, then they have to go all in on it at some point.
Yeah,
Because we went from an era where it was, oh, the league doesn't believe CTE is real. They don't believe that concussion injuries can do this. It can't exist. To it's, now we're in the age of neurological specialists are in the
enough
stadium.
retired players have like
Um,
donated their brain to research.
and so I do think that it's kind of a catch 22. because the players, I think, and especially stud players, want to believe that they're so good at what they do that they will never be in a position to be concussed.
Yeah, but we know
Like,
that's not the case.
right. The
History has
fans
told us
know
that
that.
that's not the case,
The
that they're
fans
just
know
being
that,
young
but
idiots.
the fans know that. But good luck telling Lamar Jackson that he can't juke out of every hit. It takes a certain level of confidence to be where he is.
Hmm.
Um, and it takes a certain amount of humbleness and humility to wear a guardian cap in a public setting, especially on a Sunday when the whole world is watching. And it does take trendsetters like James Daniels to do that, for guys to be like, I know we wear this in practice, but you know, if it can save, I have a wife, I have a child, and if this can buy me another 15 years of being coherent after my playing days are over, then absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it takes some family
But
men to do
that's
this.
why I'm saying like it's probably more so going to be like, rolled out as like a kind of grandfathered in rule than anything else.
Agree with that.
Because like
I
then you
think
don't deal with the ego of like Lamar Jackson or anybody else.
I do think that unfortunately human beings, we learn through failure. And it may not be our own failure, but when we see on TV an injury like Tua's,
Hmm.
where another concussion happens and he's on the ground making the hand movements, which I guess those hand movements are, um, they coincide with deeper rooted concussions.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like the third or fourth time it's happened to him, that at some point there should be players who are like, if it happened to him, if I have a way of creating some extra protection for him.
Or it's
There's
not
no
even like
guarantee that these guys
it.
won't get concussions with guarding cap.
No, but like it's not even like I have a way of like guaranteeing. It's not guaranteed that you won't get a concussion even with a guardian cap, right? But it's something that can potentially make a difference. It's
Yeah,
like nothing is going to be a surefire like you won't get a concussion, right? But it's all about like how can I minimize the possibility of me getting a concussion. And even if that guardian cap is like 1 or 2%, like why the heck not?
yeah. Like you're also looking at a sport where like people more look at your numbers than your face.
Hmm.
Like especially if you're in the trenches, if you're an offensive lineman, you know, who cares how much they cut to your face? You know,
Yeah, like most of the
and
time, like
so
especially also on defensive like linemen, when you're rushing the passer, everybody's just looking at your numbers and who the heck you are.
yeah, and I do think like maybe it comes down to marketing. I do think that like maybe if the NFL had sponsorships with, healthcare um companies, or even if teams regionally did, to promote health through there and mental health and stuff like that, then maybe you would get some more participation. But like it's an ingrained society of having to be the hardest hitter, having to be the toughest guy, that it's hard to get these guys to say, "Hey, I can be wrong. Let me be humble and hey, let me think about." These guys are so taught to chase after the money and take care of their families in the climb, that once they have reached the mountaintop, they're no longer worried about what comes
Yeah,
next.
yeah, but like too many of these guys have lost everything taking care of their family and the climb.
Yes.
Like that's a whole nother problem. Like financial illiteracy in like sports is ridiculous.
I understand that. I'm more just saying, like, you get married, you have the climb, and you meet a beautiful woman, you marry them, you have a child, and it's all part of the climb. And then you're a 10-year NFL player with a wife and children who have everything that you ever wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't look towards what the next 30 years look like.
Yeah,
Why? Like, why would you like
they're
it
not
has to
taught
be
that.
based on focus,
But
correct?
it's also like okay, I've worked all my life to get to this point. I'm here. I want to enjoy it, right? It's not about like, like once you get there, it's hard to transition to like, okay, how do I make this, like okay, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, right? Like I know it's not going to last that long, but I still need to be here. Nobody's thinking like that. Or at least not
I
most of them
just
aren't thinking like that.
my thing is just how many Tuas, how many DeMar Hamlins have to happen before people are like,
I mean, how many times did it have to happen before the NFL actually like, said, okay, maybe something is wrong? It took decades.
yeah.
It can take another few decades, and there's nothing we can say about it. It took the NFL long enough just to
But
acknowledge that there was a problem.
the thing is, this is in the players' hands.
Yeah,
The
yeah, but
NFL, admittedly, for all the shit that they do wrong, has tried to make the game way more safe. You can argue that, you know, there's bullshit flags thrown way more every game, but like it's proven like the roughing the passer rules that change. Has it not proven to make tackling different?
mhm.
As it, the dynamic kickoff, which we'll jump into in a second, like, has it not proved like that arrangement? Is it not with the intention of player safety? It's now in the hands of the players to actually give a damn about the
But
shit
then,
that
like,
the
see,
alumni before them fought.
the only reason that like I'm saying like it's gonna take another quite a bit of time. It's not because like you have players that agree with you, right? But you also have players that's like I've been doing this for 10 years, right? So you you aren't going to appeal to all the players and then they have to do a vote and all this crap, right? Like it's gonna take time, and I mean it took like decades for the NFL to fuss up a little bit. So like if we have to wait another decade, that's just how it's gonna happen, right? I mean I don't want to, but like whatever. Like
Yeah,
if
I
you're a
think
player
what's
who
going to
thinks
happen,
like if you're a
I think
player
that has
who
to be at the college level.
no, well like
Like
college
the
and NFL
college,
are completely different,
no,
right?
no, I mean if guardian caps are mandatory in game at the college level, like a crash course on wearing them. Like guys need to be in the spotlight with it, not with
But
hey,
like
it's
that, the
that
only way that's gonna happen is like they start normalizing it and kind of formalizing it as players that come in have to wear it.
right, which would be a
But
lot
the other
easier
thing is
to do.
like if you're a player who thinks like like okay, well I want to be able to enjoy like after I play football, right? Then you should wear it. Like screw it, right? But like again, a lot of these players have egos. They aren't going to change a thing. So the best thing that can happen is you can wait for these players to leave. Like, and there's nothing we can do about it, regardless if we sit here and talk all day about it.
Problem with that is that there's always a player coming in who was taught the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, but
That's
like most,
that's how football is.
but the
Everybody
point is,
socioeconomically is of
but
the same
the
background.
point is, right? Like most of the players coming in know they aren't going to get a 20-year long career, right? But you can still appeal to more players coming in than are currently in the NFL. So at some point you will get the advantage, right? But it
That's only if you persuade.
yeah, but like I mean it's going to happen, right? At some point it has to happen. And like, regardless, like they want to keep bashing their heads together. Like, there's nothing I can do about it.
NFL is the
So
NFL. It's not the NHL where everybody like sees a skate slash in their like neck guards. Like it's not the AHL where it's like they made things mandatory. Like as long as it's optional, it's gonna be like
no, no, but
99%.
like the same thing happened. Like, okay, like helmets, like those
Yeah,
things,
that was a visor.
visors, like all those things are
We're talking
incremental,
about like
right?
the whole fucking brain.
Yeah, but like everything's incremental. So at some point it will change, but like I'm not going to sit here and argue about how fast it has to happen because like at the end of the day they have the choice to wear it if they want.
All right, let's start to move on here, but let's first take a second. Uh, thoughts on the Tua situation.
I mean, it
I'm
sucks.
of I'm of the opinion now that like
It sucks.
he obviously has brothers who play football, at the very least at the college level. Um, there's definitely family involvement. I don't know how can allow him comfortably to keep going out on the field and doing that to his body. I think the
It's a
Dolphins,
mindset situation, right?
it's a mindset situation, but like once you learn about concussions and what the symptoms of more severe ones are, and to realize like if I'm a mother of him that three of them are now attached to this, and that's not to assume anything happened at the college or high school or whatever prior level.
Mhm.
Like there's definitely brain trauma on top of that. I was like, I was telling friends jokingly, but like half serious, like this guy's gonna be in a nursing home soon.
Yeah.
He's very close to being like he could be one hit away from being like paralyzed, um and like half of a person.
Uh-huh.
And like if I was in his circle, I would be like, there's no way you can come back at the very least this season. You have to you have to step away from the game and reflect because
Yeah, but
you
like
have to be real with yourself. He
yeah,
already
but the thing
spent
is,
a
right?
hundred plus
Is he going to
million.
listen, right? Like the point is at the end of the day, is he going to listen?
He has guaranteed money on a new deal that's like 100 plus million.
Okay.
He doesn't need the money anymore.
Uh-huh.
The Dolphins have drafted offensive linemen early in the past 5 years. I can't speak to how well they've panned out, but he keeps getting hit a lot.
Mhm.
Granted, this latest concussion, he was scrambling, but the hit from Damar Hamlin did not look like it was very hard.
No.
It did not look dirty. His head just kind of fell in Damar Hamlin's arm,
Mhm.
and then it bent back.
Mhm.
And that was how it looked. So God help him if he actually gets hit hard.
Yeah.
And knowing the NFL, it will happen.
Mhm.
So I'm of the mindset this guy is gonna die young if he doesn't at
I
least
mean,
like, do something
like
different.
with the way especially like even even if he survives, which hopefully he does, like, well into his later years, there is going to be consequences already with how bad it looked. Just then, again, that hit didn't look overtly malicious or anything.
No,
It
and people
the
will say like if he had learned how to slide, it could have been prevented. I'd argue the way that he's been getting concussions in his career, it
I'm
eventually was going to happen this way.
but like I'm also pretty sure like each concussion is making it harder. Like it like the
Yeah,
next one is coming a lot easier on a lot like an easier-ish type of hit.
you play the one position where everybody's trying to hurt
Knock
you.
you. Hmm. But there's
Yeah,
also
they're trying
so
to
many
do it
rules around
clean,
the
but
safety of that position, right? Nowadays.
and yet it didn't stop him from getting two other concussions.
Yeah, I know. I know. I agree. I'm just saying, like, but the point is that like this one didn't look like overtly malicious or, bad in a sense, but like obviously it affected him a lot.
Yeah,
And like something he has to do something, and hopefully one of that is take time.
yeah. I can't justify him stepping on a practice field within a month.
We'll see. All right, anyway, on to let's talk about
I think
dynamic
it would
kickoff
be
as we mentioned it.
I just think it would be selfish to like disregard anybody else's opinions on it.
Yeah, but they have egos, they got to get through it.
Okay.
Anyway, dynamic kickoff.
Yeah, we gotta find the rules on this because, like, I'll be honest, I
So
still
you have to land the ball in between the 20 and the 0. And if it goes through, it's a normal touchback, right? But if you
right, which takes it to the 25. Or no,
20,
not a normal touchback. It does take it to the 20.
I think it's the 20. Because I think if you land in the uh, touchdown, if you land in the zone or you fly over, it takes you to the 30.
Mm-hmm. And then, um, if
You
you
kick it out of bounds, you go to
score,
the 30 regardless or something like that.
kick out of bounds, you go to the 40,
40.
I think, which was what it always was.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
if
onside kicks are
you,
only allowed in the fourth.
yes. The 10 players must line up across the return team's 40-yard line and must be stationary, so they must be each, within a certain number of yards this time instead of all being
Mm-hmm.
in one fluid motion against each other.
Yep.
At least 7 players on the return team's 35-yard line, two
Two
players
players in the return
on the
zone, which is the
30
20 to the 0.
to the goal line.
Yeah.
No more than 2 players in the landing zone. Um, Players cannot move until the ball is received by the return man or hits the ground. Kickoff must make at least to the 20-yard line, and the ball must be returned if it lands between the 20 and the goal line. If the ball lands in the end zone, it's to the 30-yard line. If the ball hits in the landing zone but rolls into the end zone, it's to the 20.
Yep.
If the kickoff goes out of bounds or does not make it to the 20, I guess if you have a hurricane going on, then you start at the 40.
Mm-hmm.
So, this rule is brought in to encourage more returns while limiting injury.
I
Very
mean,
good in intention.
did you see the I think it was the Chiefs kicker? I forget who. There was a kicker who did like a weird kick where it kind of like went straight and then kind of like veered off.
No, I can't say that I saw that.
I don't know, it was in a preseason game. I just saw a highlight passing and it looked weird, but it looked like it was pretty consistent. And it would land like it made it hard for the returner to catch because like while it was already in its like peak, it started to just go off to one side depending on how he kicked it.
And what was the result of it, though?
Like at one time, it landed in the zone and then it went into the end zone. The other time, they didn't catch it and the same thing happened. And like one time, they caught it kind of off balance. I think.
So I will agree that allows for some more creativity. I know that the
I mean,
Steelers,
I just think that like kickers are gonna find a way to make it like net 20-yard line basically.
sure, and
Um.
I know that teams have. I know the Steelers toyed with the idea of bringing in Cordell Patterson to the team because of a guy like him was brought into the NFL as a first round pick because of his return skills.
Mm-hmm.
And now that the league is trying to encourage more returns, um, I don't know. I do feel like the data is saying that nothing is really changing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's really just kicker's gonna get used to it, and they're gonna start. You're gonna get pinned back into the 20 a lot more.
Yeah.
And
And I do think that even situationally, that some teams are just going to be okay with giving up the 30.
yeah, I mean it, dude. If I'm a like 35-0, like
You're
who
up
gives a crap?
yeah. If you're up 3 touchdowns,
Like who
start at
gives a crap,
30. My
bro?
defense is obviously stopping you.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I do think that the intent is very good.
I
This
mean,
rule
I
was
think
lifted.
I the only thing I have a problem with is the fact that offside onside kicks are only allowed in the fourth.
Right. If you're down 3 scores and you're trying to make a comeback, you need that opportunity.
Even
Um,
then, it's like, sometimes it was like a niche scenario where you like the team wanted to just try an onside kick in the, last part of the second quarter.
Also, the need to declare an onside kick. So the
Well,
whole
because of the lineup change in the rules, that's why.
that yeah, but if everybody is 30 yards away anyway, because of how you have to line up,
Hmm.
because both teams basically are within 20 yards of the
Yeah.
returner, then it would just be the it would just be the kicking team.
No, no, no. But I'm saying is like because of how they
If they
changed
didn't
the.
declare it, like obviously the other team would notice that everybody is 60 yards away.
Yeah, no, but like the way that they line up, like because of how that changes, that you if you don't declare it, then everybody's gonna scramble to get up there.
I would argue that that's on coaches and players for not realizing that there's a whole sea of other colored jerseys standing in a literal line.
But even the
Nobody noticed. At that point, you deserve to lose the
doesn't
kick.
the place the ball gets kicked off from change also?
No,
'Cause-
you kick from the 35, I think, or no,
uh,
25.
yeah, but don't like I thought.
All kickoffs are the same unless there's a penalty beforehand.
Yeah, okay, fair.
So, and how an onside works is obviously you have the kicker in the middle, just like any kickoff. You got five to the left and five to the right.
Yep,
They're all on the same yard line on an
yep.
onside kick. If you are the other team, you have zero coaches who can get a player's attention and be like, that seems off. We need to go put people there.
Anyway, like my
You
point
deserve
is,
to not have the ball.
but like my point is that like I just think that rule is unnecessary. Like, okay, there's niche scenarios where you'd want it outside of the fourth quarter already, right?
I'll meet you in the middle here. In the second and third quarter, you should have to declare
Yeah.
it. In the fourth quarter, it should be implied this is only happening because I'm dead. But like, if I want to do a fucking onside kick with 7 minutes left in the second quarter, I don't feel the need to tell the world.
Hmm.
It at that point, if I'm down 35 nothing and there's still that much game left, okay, we've been out coached. God forbid they get out coached on a play.
Yeah.
Like they obviously came so prepared to whoop our asses. It should be easy for them to line up 10 yards away.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. This whole rule was adopted from the new XFL turned UFL. Um, again, I commend the NFL for trying to bring something back in the fold. My question is just at this point, like, if the data continues to show that everybody just wants the touchbacks, what do you try next, or do you just go back to the other style, or do you just stick with this? because touchbacks are touchbacks, and who cares the format?
Mm-hmm. I really think they should reconsider the onside kick rule. That's about it.
Yeah,
Like I could care less what the rest of the kickoff is doing. Like sure, ban onside kicks in the first. I agree. It's like who the hell's gonna do it? But like the rest of the game, like come on.
yeah.
Even the
But I
third,
mean,
like I don't think I've seen an onside kick in the third quarter.
but like even in terms of broadcasting, like there's a certain energy brought to an opportunity to say there's an onside kick.
Mm-hmm.
And you take that away and make it mundane,
Yeah.
then it loses its appeal.
Yep. Okay. You want to
We
talk about
wrap
the?
up with Yeah, let's wrap up with that. We don't have to
Yeah.
go into
You want to
weekend
talk about the
football.
Chiefs?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess we have a minute. The team that everybody in the media says has a target on their back, despite the fact that they won back-to-back rings. People are now saying like, "Hey, everybody thinks that they can't do it." And
Yeah.
it's like, well, they did do it twice, but even Brady never three-peated. Um, it's hard to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to win championships. It's hard to win back-to-backs. I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to see the Penguins do it. But if there's ever a team that seems to keep defying the fact that like they got rid of Tyreek Hill, they got rid of all the other receivers,
Mm-hmm.
they brought in scrubs off the street. It all really comes down to Mahomes.
Yep.
Um, and even without Mahomes, in the one or two spots along the past few years where he's been hurt, it didn't stop them from winning. I, they're not obviously Super Bowl ceiling, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think that they're more than capable. I think that the bulletin board material is a bit misguided because obviously they've shown time and time again that they can do it.
They can do it.
I
They can
think
make it work. That the thing is, right? Like you were saying, right? They can make bad or suboptimal situations work.
work, yes,
And
which
that
is
says
the
a lot
biggest
to as like a team.
right. They've been drafting defensive heavy
Yeah.
overall in the past 5 6 years because I think they were the first ones to really realize it. Like Mahomes can get the squeeze the best out of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like as long as they have Travis Kelsey and they have maybe one competent wide receiver,
One
like
like wide
they'll
receiver he can
get
just
what
go
they
to.
can.
Yeah.
But I do think the media spotlight is this is very Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
The first time you won one, it was like, well, the Golden State Warriors haven't won one in a very long time. The second time, it's like, all right, they're on to something here. We're now at the point, whether it be due to personal matters, um, and just them being in the spotlight, whether it be Patrick Mahomes' brother or wife, whether it be Travis Kelsey's girlfriend, whatever it may be, we're being treated with the oh they're so good on the field and the oh we can't let them go off the
Mm-hmm.
field, which is making it very rapidly hard to swallow this as acceptable. Just in terms of coverage, not in terms of play style. Like I think with the Golden State Warriors, their run between 2013 and 2018, it was like, well, they keep taking down LeBron. It's obviously easier to root for the guy taking down LeBron
Yeah.
because they built this team. The Chiefs have built their team
Oh yeah.
and they hadn't won a Super Bowl in a very, very long time, if not ever. And were known as Andy Reid couldn't win the big one and the Chiefs couldn't win the big one. To now, it's like I can't turn on the TV without like Like there's still 31 other teams.
Yeah, but
And
I mean,
even Steelers fans are like, well, if the Steelers don't win today, at least the Chiefs won. Okay, well, the Chiefs are gonna get their dose of entertainment value out to the world, whether they win or lose.
yeah,
Don't you fucking worry about it. So like it's now become easier. I can't speak for other diehard sports fans who live and die by their singular teams, but it's starting to get annoying.
hmm
And it's not. It wasn't enough when you have the first takes and Skip and Shins,
hmm
all these other talk shows who talk about the Dallas Cowboys nonstop, talk about the Steelers nonstop, talk about, you know, the same five teams over and over again. There's talk about LeBron and KD and, the same 20 players over and over again. It's getting to the point where this isn't just one talk show that I can avoid. This is every time you clock into any NFL game.
yep.
And
I just turn off sound at that point.
it's, I got Sam being like, oh, she's making notes when I do my fantasy football draft. Travis Kelsey's the only thing that you have to do. It's like Sam doesn't know shit about fantasy football. Like it's all just becoming too much. And part of it is that musician that I refuse to fucking name, but like this is like at some point give
Hey,
people
like,
privacy.
I
I know
mean,
they're not asking for it. I'm asking you to give those people privacy.
like again, I just like kind of turn off the sound.
Oh, dude, I wish I could do that.
Just leave it on in the background.
I have too much of an appreciation for broadcasters
Okay,
because
half the
they work. Whoa,
broadcasters
whoa,
nowadays
whoa, whoa.
are.
Okay, no, no, no. In terms of like play-by-play guys who how hard it is to get into that industry, and
So what? If like my point
well, no,
is,
stop. Let me finish. When they hit their pinnacle and they hit the top of their game and they're doing NFL games, they deserve to have their voices heard. The
yeah,
content
but
is the problem.
yeah, like I agree with you, right? They did a great job to get where they are, but I ain't listening to that yapping, and that's at the end of the day, I would have to listen to it.
Right. But like I
No,
don't want I will not I won't mute for an hour because of what was said for a minute.
no, but like it's not even a minute, right? It just keeps coming back. It's like, oh hey, this play
It
happened,
is
and
a boomerang effect.
yeah, and I won't mute. I'm like you. I'm not muting because it's one time, 1 minute something was said, right? It's every couple of plays it just somehow comes back and forth and goes away, then comes back.
Exhausted. It's exhausting. It very much resembled Tom Brady's career, where it was like when it came time to the playoffs, you might as well just not have talked about anybody other than the Patriots.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, like
The offseason, all you could talk
so,
about was, well,
but
who can beat the Patriots? But this isn't even sports. It just is kind of attached to
but
the
like
hips.
my point is that okay, like they even the play-by-play guy, the color broad, the broadcasters, right? They're getting paid. Doesn't matter, but like I don't have to put my ears through it. Anyway,
I wish I
let's
could do that to myself.
let's move on, right? Okay. We had the NFL in Brazil.
Yeah. So that turned into like a nasty rumor of, oh, we're sending two teams that wear green, and the whole world thought that they were just both going to wear white uniforms because there was an actual belief that wearing green in Brazil was too gang affiliated, that was going to lead to rushes on the field or something. Um, yeah, that didn't happen that way.
Yeah,
Also,
good.
it's really hard to play a football game when everybody's wearing the same uniform. Um, I watched. I thought the game for its entertainment value was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they did do the one weird thing that I don't know if you noticed, but like when they put the games in London, stuff like that, they treat it like a Super Bowl and they put one of the end zones is one team, one of the
Yeah.
end zones is the other. They put the NFL in the middle.
Yep.
They put the NFL in the middle, but they treated the Eagles like the home team.
Yeah,
Both
because
end zones were Eagles.
it was their home game,
The
though, right?
doesn't matter though. Like the NFL's trying to promote the NFL
Yeah.
in both entities. I did think that was a little bit weird. Although to their credit, the in-stadium broadcaster, PA guy, was doing a hell of a job of hyping up everything.
Yeah.
But um, that very well could also just be because obviously no NFL game has been there before.
Yeah. Fair.
Um, they
I
played in a
mean,
smaller stadium, like a 50,000 stadium, soccer stadium, which is a bit polar opposite to the Wembley stadiums and other London ones that were at least, I want to say, double that. But the sound factor on the broadcast was very good.
mm-hmm.
And the atmosphere appeared to be very alive.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to that becoming a yearly thing. I just think that at some point you have to start sending different teams each year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't send the Jaguars of the world every year because if this is going to screw with teams' home games, it should be on equal footing.
Yeah.
Everybody should lose one at some point. It shouldn't be, oh, the Jaguars play 6 home games and then they play the other 2 in London.
Yeah. What are you gonna do at this point? Like, I mean, there's also like teams, like which team is going to, you know, like if you take away a like Eagles home game, which they did, right? You lose the people who are coming to the Eagles game, but you gain all the people who are going to the Brazilian game, right?
Right.
But if you
I
take
mean, I
away a
do guess,
Jaguars game, that number you're losing less and gaining a lot more,
although I
right?
do guess now that I think about with the week 17 or 18 being implemented into the fold, like there's always half the teams have one more home game than the others
Mm-hmm.
because you have but like I think that at the very least, and if you're going to do it that way, um,
Yeah.
whoever it has to be two teams that have it should be two teams with 9 home games playing each other
Mm.
or whatever because
Wait,
it
eight home
was
games,
9 versus 8.
right? So it should be two
Yeah.
teams with eight
Okay,
home games
eight
playing each
versus
other
seven.
neutral. I feel.
Yeah. Yes, if you have the +1 margin for home games, one of those two of those teams should be playing neutral because at the very least you're selling as many home games
The
as
rest of the league, basically.
right. Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's the criteria going forward.
Okay. You want to do a week? I know we're week two. We've already talked about Tua, but you want to do a week one recap to end it out?
Maybe like a 30-second one. I don't know. Like scoring appears to be down um overall, but there definitely appear to be some high power offenses still. Um it's hard to think that the same teams won't still dominate.
Yeah.
You look for more from teams like Tampa and Detroit because they obviously showed flashes.
Mm-hmm.
Um but we also don't know consistency
I mean, we'll find
from
out
those.
tomorrow
Yeah,
at least for a
we'll
little
find out.
bit.
Yeah. But I think overall, each conference, AFC and NFC, probably has two teams that are perennial studs.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's 4 or 5 teams in each conference that could be in that second tier,
Okay. Fair.
and that much like when we talked about the wild card for baseball, like when we talked about in July, is like I think we could see a lot of teams towards the end of the year that could be like ninth in the AFC or NFC, or
Mm-hmm.
they could, with a win, be like the third seed.
Yeah.
So we'll find out what that is as time unfolds.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.